Okay, so now we want to have a look at the market section of the presentation. Okay, so now we'd like to look at the market section of our presentation, because obviously without a strong market for the product that we're suggesting will solve these problems, we have to So now we've had a look at the overview, and we've taken a little bit of a detailed look at the company history of NSA and the company that are producing Juice Plus. We now need to look at the market that this product is operating in, because obviously without a strong market for the product, there's no long-term business success open to us. So let's just have a look at what the signs are there for us relative to the market that we're in. So the health and wellness industry is predicted to be one of the fastest growing sectors in the next decade. And for those of us that are involved in the healthcare industry as practitioners, we've certainly seen how more and more people are opening up to the fact that they need to take their health into their own hands and understand what they can do to keep themselves well and how to stay fit and how to stay healthy. So there is obviously a market there with growing, business opportunities for people who are operating in that market. Now, the global market for vitamins and supplements is currently worth $68 billion. Now, that's a Euromonitor figure, and there's been double-digit growth in the market for antioxidants and probiotics. And shortly, when you hear the product section, you're going to hear about how the antioxidant component is very much active within these whole food supplements. The fruits, the vegetables and the berries are really, really strong providers for antioxidants and other phytonutrients that people are looking for. And there are also probiotics in our product. So this really covers those two key growth areas that we're seeing in the market. And from the standpoint of timing, the baby boomer generation, the 46 to 64-year-olds, who are now waking up to the fact that they're not as young as they were, they're not as fit as they were. They're looking for effective and cost-effective ways also to prevent illness and to take their health into their own hands. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. People are looking to take preventative steps. And what most people are looking for, what they wish for, is vitality and a long and healthy life. That's what we all want. We want time with our families, and we want to have the enjoyment of leisure activities and to be fit enough to enjoy those leisure activities. And on top of that, we also want financial freedom. And you'll see a bit later there's an opportunity for us to provide people with both of these things, health and wealth, quite literally. So in America, here is a doctor, Dr. William Sears, who's a very well-known pediatrician. Actually, he's a very sort of well-known, high-profile figure. He's basically said that 75% of all chronic disease is preventable, and the facts are that 1 in 3 people are living with some form of cardiovascular disease, whether that's the effects of blood pressure or stroke or heart disease. Many people suffering with that kind of cardiovascular problem. And then looking at cancer, we've got 1 in 3 women will develop cancer, 1 in 2 men will develop cancer. So these are really quite scary statistics. And then for the sugar handling diabetes issue, we've got 1 in 2 people are going to be diabetic by 2020 in the States, and we are following the States. We can all see that happening. Very, very concerning. 50% of people with a diabetes health issue. That's just unsustainable. We can't allow that to happen. 1 in 3 US people are now currently obese. Now there is a term being coined, it's called diabesity, where you bring the diabetes and the obesity together, and that's diabesity. And that's Dr. Mark Hyman, who wrote The Blood Sugar Solution, has spoken a lot about this. And the way we prevent that is by eating whole foods and staying off processed foods, and this is really where a lot of the major health organisations have started to try and drive this message home to people. And here, we can see the importance of fruits and vegetables, and the campaigns for eating whole foods and plant-based foods. The World Health Organization is saying it, the Cancer Research Fund, the American Institute for Cancer Research, British Heart Foundation. You can see there, that they're all trying to encourage people to eat an absolute minimum of 5 portions of fruits and vegetables per day. Now, in reality, most people are not achieving that. And here, this was a recent front page on the Daily Express. Forget the 5 a day servings of fruit and veg. Now you need 7 to be healthy. And actually, the science is telling us that it really needs to be between 9 and 13 servings a day to actually have statistically, preventable effects on the cancers and the heart disease, the major chronic disorders. Now, the nutritional reality that we're facing is that we're suffering from what's been coined, the term type B malnutrition is now being spoken about, where we have excessive calorie intake of nutrient deficient foods, and the idea is that the chronic and the degenerative diseases that are showing up, the inflammatory diseases and all of these problems that we're seeing on the increase are fundamentally deficiency diseases due to type B malnutrition. And what that means is that most people are consuming, literally dead food, food that is consisting of empty calories, refined foods, processed foods, foods that are, high in sugar and fat, and they're consuming too much alcohol, and these are all calories that are not providing the phytonutrients that we need to stay well. So experts maintain that while many of us in the developed world have got overt signs of clinical malnutrition, all of us are suffering with some degree of subclinical malnutrition. That's a strong statement, and half of all people admitted to UK hospitals are found to be malnourished, and approximately 1/3 are suffering with the effects of type B malnutrition. And that's from the British Association for Applied Nutrition. So there is a serious problem here, and we do need to find solutions. So the fact is, we're starving in the midst of plenty. Now, governments have been trying to tell us to eat well, and that the plate should be consisting mainly of plant-based foods and grains and cereals and other starchy foods, and that we should keep the processed foods, which are high in fat and sugar, to an absolute minimum. You can see there the bottom triangle in purple. So this is what they're encouraging most people to do, in order to help to try and prevent chronic disease, because we know that diet can prevent chronic diseases, particularly cancer. Here you can see this summary of a document from the World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute for Cancer Research. The summary is worth looking at, the document in total, but basically the food, the nutrition, physical activity, all has a huge bearing on the prevention of cancer. I mean, quite large percentage figures, we're talking sort of 35–40% reduction in risk for cancer if you eat whole foods, plant-based foods, and you get yourself physically active. So that's definitely worth a look, that particular summary paper there. Now, we mentioned earlier about obesity and the sugar handling diabetic problem that's coming, and we do only have to look along the high street to see that this is coming here too now. From the States, we've where the processed foods seem to come when diets change, the obesity and these health issues start to follow. So it says here, the number of obese people has doubled over the last 10 years, and the projected increase of 70% by 2015 is what we're witnessing, quite literally. I mean, that's just a few years away, isn't it? There are now 63% of overweight or obese adults living in the EU. Okay, so that's 250% more than the global obesity rate. And that's purely because we are literally eating ourselves into this situation. Extreme obesity, we know, can shorten the life by up to 12 years. So, the morbidity, the more fat you're carrying around, it's quite obvious, really. The more the body's under stress, the more inflammation there is in the body, the more you're going to get sick, and you're going to die young. So here we've got the obesity prevalence in European men. You can see baseline there on obesity. We're probably looking at an average of 15% actually clinically obese. And in terms of overweight, as it said before, you know, across the board there, around about 60%. You can see in the UK we're not faring particularly well, with more than 20% obese and 65% overweight. Not good. Here are the women. So we can see again United Kingdom figures there, 23% of females clinically obese, slightly less in terms of overweight, but you know, touching 55% there. Really not very good. So that's why there is work to do here in this regard. So the market's enormous, and we've got 700 million people living in Europe, literally right on our doorstep, and less than 1% of the population of the EU know about or use the products from the Juice Plus product range. And you know, this is a tremendous opportunity for us. We've got the Juice Plus Shake product now, which has just been launched back in November, you know, a year ago. So that was introduced. We're just starting to work with that now. There'll be a little bit of information on that in the product section that Debbie will do for you shortly. So we literally do have a ground floor opportunity right now. Now, when we look at the introduction of a new product, there's a thing called the S-curve, which is the way the market receives a product. And you can see here at the very beginning, as the product is introduced, we're in the innovation stage where very, very few people are actually taking up the product. You know, it starts to rise, and typically once you get to about 10% of the population having that product or using that product, we then see a surge where word of mouth takes over, and it becomes, you know, quite normal, and it's not any longer unusual to have the product, but you know, it's becoming more and more the norm. And here we get to a stage where there's the growth process, and then we end up where the saturation of the market occurs, and you know, literally everybody is using a product or a similar type of product. So, you know, with mobile phones, we all have seen that happening. Those of us that are old enough remember when these big bricks were introduced, and you know, they were very sort of cumbersome, but you know, a few people still found benefits, started using them, and as the technology improved and as the awareness grew, more and more people were using mobile phones, and then the market just took off. So there was the growth phase there. People literally made their fortunes when they were in, you know, fairly early on the mobile phone business process, and the growth that they experienced made them very, very wealthy. And now, of course, we've got saturation where you only have to sign up for a contract, and you know, they give you a mobile phone for free. So here we are with the S-curve for Juice Plus. We can see we're still very much in the introductory, innovative stage. We're nowhere near 10% yet. We've got all this growth coming, and hopefully, if the product really makes inroads like it should, and if we do our job properly, educating people as to why this is a good proposition for them and for their families, there's going to be an interesting business growth process that we're going to be part of. The product is proven. You know, we've got the research, which you'll hear about shortly. It's timeless because the need will always be there, and it's perfectly positioned to fill the need that is there within the market, the gap that's there in the market. Now, if we're looking at predictions of where this is all going, there's a chap here who's actually an economist, and he's written a book called The Wellness Revolution. It's literally talking about the next trillion-dollar industry. And he said that the greatest entrepreneurial opportunities lie in the distribution of wellness products and services. And that is a book that you know, you should read if you're considering this business, if you're currently in the healthcare industry. This is definitely a book that you should read. It's a gem. And here Donald Trump was asked quite recently what he would do if he had to do it all over again, and he quite clearly said, you know, one line, matter-of-fact reply, I would get into network marketing. If you don't understand network marketing and the concepts of peer-to-peer marketing and using, you know, a marketing method where there's a personal recommendation to a friend or a colleague, and then there's a reward for making that that recommendation, then do look into the concept of this business method, because it is going to be a business method for the future. So very much a future trend in the making here. So that's that. I'm now going to pass you over to Debbie, who is going to take us through the product section. Thanks very much.